Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Tuesday, and I hope it really does find you well out there as we continue. What a crazy time it has been. It's very difficult to know what to do because seemingly day by day, week by week, month by month, so many things change. It is hard to figure all of it out. Here's the thing that hasn't changed. Guys, they're spending a fortune. And it's not just us. Every country, especially when you think about like G7, the amount of debt is enormous. The tremors, the warning signs, they're all there. And I was saying this yesterday. Guys, we've seen this before. You know how this ends. Every one of you that has been listening to this show for any amount of time knows how this ends. The bubble will burst. And I don't care if you're a day early, a month early, a year early, or 2 years early. You need to be early. Because one day too late, then all of a sudden, everything changes. 800-951-0592, the website at allamericangold.com. Of course, the physical delivery of wealth insurance, of gold and silver. It is what we do right now. I have breaking news. We will see what happens here, but right now it looks like the May oil is skyrocketing. This is going to be something where on TV we don't see this contract. So we're seeing June oil contracts. So when I give you the oil price today, it will be June. But WTI, that's NYMEX crude, right? That's us. Closing in on $130 as apparently, here's the breaking news part. Everything was kind of calm, right? Yesterday, the UAE was under attack. We understood that they were going after the oil that the UAE could bypass the Strait of Hormuz. So one of their oil ports doesn't have to go through the straits. Everything it happened. Everything seemed kind of calm. It didn't look like the Trump administration was going to respond. And now we're hearing reports that the UAE is under attack again. So we will see. I don't have any more information other than the UAE confirmed in state sources is what I am being told. We will continue to monitor this, but their air defense systems currently dealing with missile and drone attacks that they say have originated out of Iran. That's pretty much all I know right now. So we'll see does this mean the ceasefire's over? Who knows? But we'll continue to monitor the situation. It does not, at least yet, has not affected anything as far as gold and silver are much higher today. Listen, they sold off yesterday. Kind of got close to that $4,500. Listen, $4,500 gold looks like a water in the sand mark. Silver doing very, very well. I think silver is kind of, I don't even care what happens. I don't know that it can go any lower right now, but gold and silver up very big right now. Wall Street's up 300 points. The 10-year note down just a fraction. I have oil down almost $4. We'll see if that changes with the latest news. But we did get other news today, some news that I would consider good. Job openings dropped. The JOLTS number, it did not, I guess, meet expectations, but again, down to 6.86 million jobs, at least on the JOLTS survey. That's allegedly job openings. That is down from the 7.24 million in January. The number of job openings plunged in professional and business services by over 300,000. Finance and insurance up 98,000, so kind of a mix there. So not bad, but that's probably, again, what they would like to see. The quits in March up a little bit, but not very much. And again, the job market kind of stagnant. We did get a jump in the amount of hires in March. So I guess that is some good news, at least in that front. And then we also had new home sales after that disaster in January. February was better. March is better. But something that may help the guys that want to cut rates. I'll tell you about that when we get back. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. Let's take a quick look. We'll see if it changes on news that the UAE is under attack again. But right now, the Dow up 300. Remember, this was hey, ceasefire still in effect day. S&P up 50, NASDAQ's up 250. The 10-year note at 442. Crude oil, like I said, down. NYMEX crude down almost $5 at 102. Brent down 370 at 111. Now, remember, that's not the actual price. These are June contract numbers. May crude oil, you just throw $30 on top of those numbers. Gold's up 60, 45.85. Silver up $1 and change, 73.75. And again, there is a lot, and I mean a lot of trouble in the markets that we're not seeing. If you are just the headline guy, you're not going to see it. We are back into a situation where an extremely small number of stocks are really masking and misplacing. You know, they call it euphoria. I don't know if it's euphoria. This may be one of the more hated all-time, we're at all-time highs. I mean, right next to it, one of the more hated all-time highs. And it's the same conundrum, right? We have very few stocks that make up most of this market. This is a huge problem now within the markets themselves. But I guess as long as those markets hang in there, it'll be okay. But I will warn you, I'll use just one of them. Let's say Meta, Facebook. And all of these guys are doing it. They have records amount of off-balance sheet debt. Why they're allowed to do it, who knows, right? You make up your own mind. But all this money that they're borrowing for all this AI stuff, we'll see how that works out. But be careful. That's all I'm going to tell you. Be careful. Be early. Be aggressive. Especially with gold still in the 4,500, silver still in the 70s. Be early and be aggressive. So, what happened with home sales? These are new home sales. So we had another jump. So remember, I don't know if you remember, maybe you don't remember. January was down like 18%. February was up just under 9%. March up 7.5%. The new home sales still below December of 2025, but at least somewhat in the right direction. However, here's where it gets good and bad. Here's the good for the rate cutters. The price of new homes fell from 407 to 387. That's the lowest since July of 2021. Now, that's good news. Now, of course, bad news maybe for all of us homeowners, especially those that want to sell a house. Are we seeing the housing market crack here? I don't know. What we saw is not a lot of high-dollar new homes being sold right now. Predominantly, the home builders are building the cheapest homes they possibly can. Now, a little skewed in this number is the South, which is the biggest. So how housing goes, you have the South, they're the biggest housing market. You have the West, the second biggest housing market. And then, unfortunately, the Northeast and the Midwest, they're regions, but the housing market's the South and the West, predominantly.
There's not a lot of room to grow in the Northeast.
Well, in the Northeast, it's kind of crowded,
it's full,
right?
It's full.
Right? In the Midwest, well, the Midwest is the Midwest, right? It's a place where a lot of people, it's not near any, the ocean's not there, the weather's not the greatest, right? Blah, blah, blah. Sales surged in the South by 11%. Kind of masked the overall number. Sales actually fell in the West. So we'll see how next month picks up. But at least as far as new homes go, the market was very clear. Hey, we're going to build the most affordable house we can. And apparently 387,000. You got to go back almost 5 years to get a new home price that low. So we'll continue to watch that. But I guess, when we think about the JOLTS number today, openings fell. When we think about home sales, yes, they were better, but they still stink, right? But they were better. Prices fell. So a little bit for the rate cutters, at least on these two reports today. Tomorrow, we'll get private sector, and then we'll also get Thursday's jobless claims, and then Friday, the government jobs number. That is going to be the biggest number out, and they're expecting it to be somewhat good. So we're anticipating a better jobs number than we've seen in the last, say, 4 to 5 months. So those are the two things. And then we did get the Treasury refinancing numbers. Wow. Let's just say, guys, it is a big one. It was much higher than we expected as far as the amount of borrowing the Treasury is going to need to do. Of course, they blamed it on weaker revenue. And again, obviously with the tax cuts, that was kind of going to be the thing that most people are going to point to. But normally when we have a tax cut, that first year you usually have better revenue. It didn't happen this year, but the Treasury is going to need to increase their auction sizes and boosting it, the Treasury quarterly borrowing estimate to $189 billion. And here's what makes it bad. Because you're like, well, God, that's it? Just another extra $189 billion? In February, they forecasted it to be 109. 109 to 189. So the Treasury saying, hey, we got to borrow an extra $80 billion than we anticipated just to keep the checkbook at the same level. So I'm not surprised. I don't think anybody was surprised, right, Jason? Yeah. And then, of course, all the other borrowing numbers, they said, well, it could be this, right? So deficits. Let's look at deficits. Ready? And again, this is all going to change. Just under 2.1 trillion. But then they said, well, we got the Department of Defense and the Iran war, so maybe it's going to be 2.3 trillion. Oh, wait, and then we've got to repay tariffs? Now, here's the funny thing. Somehow the government is going to spread out these tariff repayments. They're only going to repay $50 billion of it this year, according to the Treasury. They'll pay $100 billion of it next year. Just kick it down the road again. So there's a lot of numbers to be added here, but we're going to have a deficit somewhere between, let's just say, 2.1 and $2.5 trillion for fiscal year 2026, Jason. At least according to the Treasury numbers that we got today.
Yeah, you know what the sad thing is we talked Warren Buffett yesterday a little bit. He has more money waiting to be deployed than the Treasury has on their balance right now. Warren Buffett can actually have more financial impact. By the way, it's not borrowed money. It's money that's free and clear. Berkshire Hathaway has more sitting there than the balance. Now, I know the federal government can get more money. I know how they're moving more money, but they also have tremendous debt.
The Treasury wants to have $800 billion. Warren Buffett's got about $400, but still, he's got at least half of the payment.
Well, from what I understand, that Treasury balance is really low right now, so it's not the 800. At least that's something I've seen.
Well, they had taxes, so we had April 15th, so we did have taxes. But yes, even with that, the Treasury still needs to borrow $189 billion. So that's going to come. That just gets slapped on to the debt every week. So one of those weeks, let's just say the government, hey, we're going to be selling $600 billion. Oh, wait, we got the Treasury thing. $800 billion for a single week, right?
I just think it won't be long.
Square.
It just won't be long until the Treasury or the federal government will start just buying the market. And the Trump IRA, I was looking at that yesterday, how awful that thing is going to be. And we'll be Japan, and we'll have the federal government just buying it. And the Trump IRA is very much Japan buying up the market. That's what it's looking like, Joe. It's, believe it or not, there's still more runway of things to get worse and worse economically in this country. There's still more runway of bad economic decisions, and it'll all be on the backs of the citizens, Joe. It's all going to be on our backs. We have to pay the interest on the debt, not anybody else.
And it's incredible how big this has gotten.
Massive.
How big the interest alone. When we thought, let's just split it down the middle. Let's just say the debt's like, I don't know, 2.3 trillion. Okay. Something like 1.2 trillion, maybe even 1.3. It's going to be close. Depends how high interest rates go, right? That's the caveat here. But over 50% of that debt is going to be interest, right? Just interest on the money that we already borrowed. And it's funny because the government was kind of like, well, gosh, we're not doing that bad. I mean, yeah, we're spending the hell out of stuff, but it's not that bad. But remember, you know, when I first started here, gosh, it's the interest payment, like $100 billion, right? Maybe a bad year, $250 billion in interest. Now we're north of a trillion. The question is how high? Is it going to be 1.2, 1.3? By 2035, we'll be spending over $2 trillion a year just in interest.
Yep.
And that math's already done, right? That's the best case scenario, right? Because obviously we don't know how much more the government's. We know this. We're not going to spend less. Yeah. When we get back, whatever they did to hold the Britain bond markets together, it all fell apart this morning.
Yes, ma'am.
800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. The gold price is prime. $20 gold. You know, you think about yesterday we were at $45.95. Gold's up $60. $46.50 on $20 gold. So a little better deal today than yesterday even at 800-951-0592. Before we get to the UK, their bond market showing significant trouble this morning. I want to give a little more detail here. So the UAE is confirming that there is an ongoing attack in the UAE right now. I don't have any details of where it may be. Then there is a report that there has been explosions being heard on one of Iran's islands, not the main island, but Quesh Island. There is a commercial complex that seems like that may be hit. So I don't know if that's was done by the U.S., Israel, maybe UAE, but we'll keep monitoring. For right now, everyone wants to maybe tiptoe past the tulips. The Dow's up 250 now. It's off the highs, but it's still hanging in there. Oil off the lows, but still, oil down $3. And then, of course, gold still up that $60. 800-951-0592. But in the UK today, remember, we kind of laughed yesterday, right? Right, the UK, all bond markets were way up, but the UK's, well, guess what? All bond markets are down at least a smidge, except the UK, up over a full basis point, as it appears that the UK will have the highest ever, well, not ever, the highest in their 30-year note going back to 1998. Wow. That's, you're funny, you think, 1998, for us, oh, that's not that long ago. Then you think about, God, that's almost 30 years ago. The British 10-year note back above 507. They are saying that based on some local elections, that whoever is going to, if Starmer, whether his group remains in power or there's another group that's going to take over, all of them are going to be forced to pick up spending. The UK has a huge problem with oil, and government spending will be needed in the UK. And Jason, the problem is pension funds tend to be the bigger buyer in the UK of their debt backing away. So that's something where, pension funds tend to do a little more homework. They're longer-term investors, right? You don't normally see pension funds buy a 3-year note, as an example, or a 6-year note. You'll see pension funds buy 10-year, 20-year, 30-year, and they're looking at the UK and saying no thanks. So, Jason, we've got Japan in trouble, the UK's in trouble, right? And really all the fiat money markets are in trouble right now.
Why do you think King Charles was paying Congress a visit last week? But you remember the last time? If I got this right, I'm pretty sure I got this right. The last time that Congress was visited by the Queen was 1991. Remember that recession? Remember we had that big old recession going on?
The recession that got Bill Clinton elected.
Yeah, there was a UK, Queen visit at that point in time, and here we are on the cusp of some other stuff getting ready to happen, and you're talking about the UK's issues. There's no way that the King or Queen's showing up unless there's some business to be done, Joe. So maybe things are a little more severe in Europe than even we're reporting.
Yeah, remember, Scott the Treasury Secretary / Secretary of War, because he seems to always want to come. He is a Soros guy. If you have that Soros pedigree, Jason, that's kind of what you do, right? That's what Soros, and he made his fortune on the carcass of wiping out currencies, right? I mean, that's how they make their money. I'm wondering if this is why do I have the feeling this is at play again, that they're getting ready to blow up, and I think it's not going to be one currency. Multiple currencies are going to be getting ready to blow up here. It's the same reason Warren Buffett, like we talked, he's got $400 billion sitting aside. They're all waiting to pick over the carcasses here, Jason.
I think you're right. We've been talking about it. There's deep-pocketed individuals that are waiting on the sidelines for just the right moment. We know what the right moment is, Joe, is when everything comes tumbling down. Now, how long until we see some of that damage? And let's just see. Let's see how much money creation will slow the tide of that from happening, and for how many months, right, Joe? Because I think we can say how many months before it happens now.
Oh, boy. U.S. PMI disappointed, coming in lower than expected, tumbling new orders, another big jump in prices paid. So this is, I guess, a bad one. We're talking about the good numbers for rate cuts. This would be a bad number for the rate cuts as prices paid continue to climb, and it just doesn't seem to matter whether it's in the service sector or the manufacturing sector. We're used to the manufacturing sector getting hit, but Jason, the service sector, and I get it, right, probably a little more sensitive to oil prices than some of the other sectors, right? Because, all these guys got to drive, right? You need the plumber, the AC guy, the guard, right? They all got to get in and drive. Patriot Radio News Hour. Are you going to sit back, sit on your hands like you did during the dot-com bubble, sit on your hands like you did during the housing crisis, sit on your hands like the financial crisis, or are you going to get active? 800-951-0592. So let's review, right? Japan had to do a double intervention last week to try to save the yen. By the way, how's that working out for them? Still back almost to 158, right? This 160 level that they've made up as their line in the sand. We have bond yields blowing out again in the UK. Pensions, who predominantly buy those longer-term UK debt, just doing math, saying, nah, wait, you got to You got to pay for all this stuff. And, we're a little less interested in buying all of that debt. We have swap lines, right, with the Middle East countries, right, that we're, funding so they can, I guess, keep money in the system. Because why would the UAE need dollars? Kind of interesting, right? Like, they're the wealthiest of the wealthy of the Arab nations. Why not just sell?
Well, they have to turn into a currency before they can.
Right. Right. So why not just sell? Sell some of their stock or sell some of their investments. Whoa. The United States is like, whoa. Wait a minute. You can't do that, right? They did get rid of Live Golf, but outside of that, that's about it.
But what currency do they have a choice to use? The countries don't have to use as much currency since they can deal in assets. But at some point, there has to be currency. Which one do you use? And by the time you want to use something that's not the dollar, even today, be careful, right, Joe? As you say, the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry. You don't want to put your money in a currency that's going to lose 2x value. You put it in the dollar and you lose 1x value. Right, Joe? That's unfortunately where we're still at, and that's why we're seeing the things we're seeing in geopolitics, Joe. There's the winds of change, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just looking like stocks making new lows continue to rise here. So I guess we're getting the winners and the losers still trying to figure that out. Countries trying to figure out how to kick the can. And the funny part is,
stock buyback.
Yeah, just how can we kick the can down another 6 months? How can we kick the can another 3 months, 12 months? And everybody's in the same situation where they're running out of ways to kick the can. And the only thing left to do is print more money. That's it. That's the only thing.
Well, and these big companies, Joe, these big companies, we talked about it in the last year or so. Once just like in 2019, before COVID came through and did its fake nonsense. Yes, CEOs. Now, the CEOs are getting out. They got stock, of course, but they want to cash that in, and they got other things, they need to do with some money. So when they sell huge amounts, like Jamie Dimon selling J.P. Morgan stock for the first time, well, that's going to make the stock go down large amounts. Well, what do? You make sure that the company has stock buybacks to fill that hole. And you make the small investor think, oh, well, it's looking pretty good. I'll throw some more money in until more selling and more selling. You're sort of digging a hole with one shovel and filling it with another shovel. But at some point, the shovel that's throwing dirt on doesn't have enough dirt, right, Joe? You end up in a big hole, a big crash. You fall right into this hole, right? That's where we're at. This is how they did it in 1929. All the biggest players left. The biggest players, the Rockefellers were out of the market before the 29 crash. J.P. Morgan Chase was out of the market before it crashed. And everybody thought, oh, this is great. This is awesome. It's never going to stop. We're sitting on another one, Joe. How many times? I guess here's the thing. At some point, you have to take your lumps. You have to learn. You're a child. You grow up, and then you get into economics. If you get into the stock market, if you don't study the history and really understand it, then you're going to fall right into the same hole these other guys did, right, Joe? So that's what we do here. We try to let you know that, hey, there's a hole there. You might want to look down before you take the next step.
Yeah, and this is getting to the point where I think we're going to see interventions everywhere. Like this is the new, I guess, to coin this, the new normal. Now Japan just saw this 3 consecutive days of intervention in their currency. To try to stabilize it here.
Didn't that start Friday, though? Didn't it start Friday? Or
yeah. Yep.
Wouldn't this
Friday.
be the fourth day? This would be the fourth day, wouldn't it?
Well, Friday, then you take the weekend off.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
Monday,
All
Tuesday. Right. So it looks like 3
Hooray for the weekend.
days.
Hooray for the weekend to slow it down.
That the Japanese have had to intervene here. When you look at stuff like how much the Treasury and our borrowing requirements and the big change, in 90 days. 90 days ago, the Treasury said they're going to need to borrow $109 billion. Extra. This is extra borrowing. Now they said, well, whoops, make it $189 billion. I mean, almost doubling what they said 90 days ago. I mean, that's not even in the ballpark. That just tells you how much money is really being created to mask over all of this stuff. Patriot Radio News Hour, $20 gold pieces, $46.50 at 800-951-0592. Final segment here on this Tuesday, Patriot Radio News Hour. We've got a market that's, kind of doesn't know quite what to do. We've got our favorite stocks doing real well. Everything else is doing kind of crappy. Of course, war. Borrow. And, this is a really similar situation to the last time these bubbles all burst, right? You have all the warnings about valuations, right? You have weird accounting and off-balance sheet bull crap that especially the AI-driven companies. You have, at least for right now, the one thing that's different is normally they like to hit the spend button while rates are falling. That's been the pattern for about 50 years, right? Drop the rates, increase the spending, and then you're supposed to, throttle back the spending while the rates go higher. That can work when people actually have faith in your debt market. And Jason, this is so clear. This is going to be the worst one yet. Because look at all the bond market. Pick one. There's not one good performing bond market in the world right now. Yields keep going higher. Well, they're also trying to spend more money. And I keep saying, we're going to cut rates. I'll say this. This war better end pretty fast. Or I may have to pull back, Jason, and say, you know what, maybe we're not going to cut rates. We're still going to spend, but we'll have to wait and see, right? How bad is this? How bad does inflation get, right? I don't know. If we start seeing numbers over 4%, it may not be possible. I think the bigger thing we'll get instead, if we don't get the rate cuts, we'll just get bigger central bank bond buying, intervention into these markets like Japan, like the UK. We're going to see heavy intervention one way or another to try to keep rates under control.
I think you're going to see the rates go down, and then some new banking regulations will show up, and they'll say, hey, big banks, you can loan this stuff out. Just print it yourself. Or you can just buy a bunch of, to be safe, just buy treasuries because we're going to pay. We can print it up anytime we want. And if they buy treasuries, then you're going to see inflation spike even worse. And there might be some sectors where these banks, the big banks, decide to loan some of this out. That'll actually slow the inflation. That's the hope. You can print it, right, and if you loan it out, it'll go into the economy.
Right. If you can keep it out of the economy, right, that's going to be the hard part because energy pricing almost makes that impossible, right? Yep. It almost makes it
safe impossible. Thing for a big bank is to print their own money and buy treasuries, which helps the woeful dollar situation.
Steel gold, $4,650 on $20 gold pieces, 800-951-0592.